welcome back, YouTube, to another episode here at WILDMAN Lifts. I'm your host, WILDMAN. Now, on today's workout, it is a gloomy day. So not the best weather, but I enjoy it because it's cooler. So it makes it a lot more enjoyable to be outside. And as you can see, I'm doing the back squat today with the barbell. And as I'm going up in weight, I'm also going to be doing the tire flip and some sledgehammer strikes. So my legs are going to be very tired. And the goal is not mainly to lift a heavy weight today, but trying to practice with the barbell now because I've been using an axle bar as of late and trying to get better at that, but also trying to make my legs tired and get a really good pump today. So let's pop into today's workout. Let's see if I can get that mission accomplished. All right, so like I just said, the strength giant set is going to start off with a back squat. And I'm coming back to the barbell after doing the axle bar for a while because I really feel like that taught me correct form. Now I'm going to try to carry that over into the barbell. As I'm going up in weight, I'm also going to be doing a tire flip with that monster tire. It weighs about 260 pounds. Believe it or not, this actually really taxes your legs. So this is a great thing to do for volume as I'm trying to get a good pump to my legs and not worrying about the weight on the back squat. And I'm going to be doing some sledgehammer strikes. Good shoulder mobility, absolutely destroys your obliques and is a conditioning killer. Love doing these, especially on a strongman day and on a cloudy day like this. And that is the strength giant set for the day. Now, I've been training without any knee sleeves because I kind of find that when I train with no knee sleeves, my knee strength actually gets a lot better. But when I use the knee sleeves, I find that my hips start to hurt a lot. So I'm trying to figure that out currently. But I absolutely will throw in a belt. And since I've been using the axle bar, I really liked how that axle bar made me had to be a little bit more upright in the hips. I'm trying to carry that over into the barbell. And while the weight is light, you'll see that it's actually pretty decent. I'm getting down to pretty good depth and I'm doing a pretty good job. But as the weight gets heavier, my hips start shifting back a whole lot more. And I couldn't find that sweet spot that I had on my back that I could with the axle bar. So this is going to take a little bit of learning. So the idea today wasn't to go heavy. The idea was to go to 385 because I know I'll be able to hit that. Even with bad form, I know I'll be able to hit that. But in conjunction with the tire flip, I'm telling you, the tire flip really taxes people's legs. I had a client one time that we were doing tire flips back and forth from my bullpen to and from, and he said his legs were absolutely destroyed the next day. So I really wanted to make sure I was getting a good leg pump while practicing proper form with the barbell as I do the back squat. So that was kind of the idea for the day. And sometimes you have to learn when to back off. When you're lifting heavy constantly, your central nervous system, which is like your spinal cord and the muscles that support your spinal cord, they begin to become fatigued. And when that starts to happen, your brain would rather just bail on a weight than to try to actually fight it up. When you're a beginner, you can get away with just lifting heavy all the time, every single week. As long as you're doing a really good rep scheme, you probably will keep progressing because the weight isn't that heavy. But there eventually will be a sticking point where your central nervous system says, no more, I need to take a break. And at that time, you need to learn how to dial it back. Lifters often call this a deload, or you could take an extended rest period, whatever it is. Most proven strength programs actually have deloads or rest periods for this particular reason to make sure that you're continuing to progress. But that can be hard sometimes because sometimes you just want to get back in the gym and do it again because it gets addicting when you're lifting heavy weight. But you need to be disciplined. Motivation to go to the gym is one thing, but you got to stay disciplined in your training format. And you need to know when to back off and when to practice proper technique and when you need to go all gas, no brakes, and go as heavy as you can. And sometimes that discipline / motivation can be a tug of war between each other. But after a while, you get used to it. And after a while, you can actually enjoy doing the deloads or the extended rest periods because you know in the long run, it's better for you. So now I'm coming up to my top set. So I didn't want to burn my legs out too bad because I had one more set after this. So 345 pounds. I was thinking about doing 3, but I really wanted to make sure my legs were fresh for my top set. So I was only going to do one as a kind of a sweet little appetizer just to make sure that my body is ready for the weight as I go up 40 pounds more. Because that would be pretty embarrassing, right? You did this whole entire workout just to get to your top set to do the rep scheme that you want to hit with the weight you want to hit, but you burned your legs out, so then you failed the set. So this is my top set, 385 pounds for hopefully 3 reps. 385 pounds, sometimes that's a really easy weight for some people. Sometimes people would just dream to hit this for 1. For me, this is a very common training weight that I find myself going back to when I want to practice technique, but I still want to get a really good pump and a really good heavy weight on my back. And unfortunately, you're going to see my technique change as the reps continue on, because the first one was okay, but now I'm starting to lean my hips back a little too far, which is something that I did before I switched over to the axle and learned how to be a lot more upright. And the last one, my hips were way far back. So I definitely have some work to do if I want to transit over to the barbell. Alrighty, not too shabby. You can see my shirt is absolutely disgusting from that tire, but that's the consequences you get when you want to do strongman. It's a very dirty sport. And this went decent, okay. With the barbell, I'm noticing that I'm actually going back to my old habits, which is being a lot more like horizontal and plane instead of being more upright. Because with the axle bar, it's a lot thicker in diameter. It doesn't bend. And because there's no knurling on it like this does, it has a tendency to try to roll off your back. And that made me have to be a little bit more upright and a little bit more comfortable in the squat, if I had to say so myself. So trying to translate that form over to the barbell, I think is going to be a little challenging. That's why I'm lessening the weight a little bit. I'm also not using any knee sleeves because I'm trying to lift without knee sleeves. So there's a lot of things that I'm trying to get accomplished all at the same time. So today was a perfect set and a perfect amount of weight. And now it's time to move on to the variation giant set, which is going to be 3 rounds of the front squat. All that back squatting I did works your posterior chain. Now I'm able to work my anterior chain, which is the front of my body. So this is going to really hammer the quads a lot more, and it's going to hammer my abs as well. And the key to this is shoulder mobility. The higher your elbows are, the better off you're going to be with the front squat, which is something I want to do to make sure that I'm teaching myself to lift a little bit more upright, like I was doing with the axle bar, because I found myself to be the most powerful that way. So this is just kind of another way to emphasize that stress training point that I'm trying to hit, which is to be a little bit more upright when I'm doing my back squats. And I can always tell when I'm doing the front squats after I'm doing back squats how tired I am. So coupling that tire with the back squat, my legs were very tired, because usually this is pretty easy for me to do. And this was actually a pretty big struggle, indicating that I was doing everything right and my legs were getting a really good pump. And I just kept it in the same format because I was 3 rounds. I was using some movie magic on. But I kept it in the same format as the strength giant set by doing that monster tire flip, mainly because it's a strongman movement and it's just fun to do. Like, look how cool that is. And I continued on with those sledgehammer strikes. You can see I'm getting a lot slower too. Now, I didn't do an assistance giant set, so I moved on to the accessory giant set, which is going to be 3 rounds. And I was going to do a 10 rep max of a barbell curl, as strict as I can be. Sometimes when the weight is light, I like to go strict, but obviously when it gets heavier, sometimes some body English starts getting in there, kind of like this movement right here. But this carries over a lot into strongman because you have to lift stones, and sometimes that requires a little bit of a popping motion and some strong biceps. So this is definitely something that carries over into strongman movements. I also did some hitchhikers as well, because you know me, I don't like shoulder impingements. And if you don't like shoulder impingements either, then you definitely got to do some hitchhikers, because they're going to keep your shoulders healthy and in line and avoid those impingements. And box jumps, because after you have tuckered your legs out like I have, the last thing your body wants to do is to jump. And that is the best time to train an athletic movement. And that's why I did that for this day. Hey, all right. So that's going to conclude it for today's workout. I really appreciate everybody stopping by and checking up on me, making sure that I didn't kill myself when I'm trying to do all these heavy implements. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.